I'm in the big leagues, told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog.
Welcome back to another episode of CED Connects. I'm your host, Danny, Cannabis Entrepreneurial Dialogues. I'm sitting here with our host, Stephen J.
What's up,
Steve?
Danny? What's up, CED family?
Our mission, guys, is to create spaces for people of color, brands of color, and minorities in the space to be able to educate and empower our communities through storytelling and experiences. We're here in North Hollywood at the American Cholo Studios. Back again. Steven, what's up, man?
Good, man. Just been, getting high, trying to navigate this crazy cannabis industry. It's slowly changing every single day. I'd say rapidly changing every single day, but it keeps me on my 5 toes.
Yeah, man. How was your weekend, bro?
It was cool. I actually did nothing. I got as high as I possibly could and hung out with my dogs. Nice. So it's just one of those days, just I needed to just get some R&R. So I leave the weekends to that. This weekend, I have opening day with my Bronco baseball team.
Yeah.
Let's go Blue Jays. But that's about it, man. Just dealing it. And I'm excited to learn more about Jasmine, our guest today.
Yeah, we are too, man. And as we all know, we're in March right now. So we're definitely celebrating Women's Herstory Month.
Let's go.
And so we wanted to bring in Jasmine, who is an amazing person. She is an absolute beast in this industry. She does so much within it. She has
she's a true mogul.
That was the word I was looking for. That was actually the word I was looking for. She is a true mogul in the space. She has multiple businesses. She is a consultant. She's been in Colorado. She's been in DC. She's been in Mexico, doing all kinds of work within the space. And so I'm excited to have Jasmine Aguiar. Jasmine, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. I think long overdue to be on this podcast.
It has been. It has been.
We've tried it.
We've tried it. We definitely tried it, and
I'll take accountability. No, just kidding.
I think that this was the place where we were supposed to do it.
Right.
This is a nice home. This is a beautiful home. You'll be able to kick it off.
I like the upgrades.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, we've been definitely working on that every season. We've been trying to upgrade little by little, doing things, but absolutely, man. So we wanna start off with some current events that we have going on. Steven, you want to kick off that current event that we got on for today?
Yeah. So we have Hall of Flowers coming up next week. So Hall of Flowers is huge. We've touched about it in the last episode. It is the trade show for the cannabis industry. It is the watering hole. I always tell people, if you are a entrepreneur, you're a business person in the cannabis space, you have to go to Hall of Flowers. It's not to go get the product. It's not to get the samples. It's to connect with the shot callers, to connect with the move makers, the shakers, and, get high with your community.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll only be there Wednesday. It is a 2-day event. And then the only other current event is I'll be attending the High Rise Strictly Business Mixer tonight. Gonna go chop it up with the High Rise people, see what they got. The brands, Cam sponsoring, Punch Extract. So should be good. Good flour, good concentrate. It's a nice little soiree.
Yeah, Hall of Flowers is gonna be exciting. I'll be there Wednesday too. Are you going, Jasmine?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Both days?
You know what? I do want to go check out their pre-party on Tuesday.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. Wednesday, it's gonna be a full day. I'm definitely gonna be there Wednesday. There's a couple of after parties as
Which
well.
one are you going to?
On Wednesday.
Yeah.
Cannabis Talk 101 is hosting a gelato activation.
Oh,
so
okay.
I might hit that up for a little bit. But also the drive back to LA is gonna be tough. So I'm gonna leave that open to the air so that I can come back on Thursday.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm coming back Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do the party thing and dip.
Yeah. It gets overwhelming. It's a lot. It's a lot to go to these conferences and have to network with people, and it's fun. Of course, we love what we do. It's great connections, but it is tiring after having to do it.
Your social meter just drains.
Yeah. You gotta go and do some recovery after.
For sure.
I'm honestly excited about our approach to Hall of Flowers this year because we are going to be going to every single booth, introducing ourselves, and then offering to create some content. And with this new home, we want to get as many brands, as many entrepreneurs onto the show to tell their story.
Yeah, and we've been getting a lot of hits back with just the first few episodes that are out right
Mm-hmm.
now. We've been getting a lot of great feedback about the new show. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure to subscribe to American Cholo channel and also CED Connects. Follow us on Instagram at CED_Connects for more of our content, more reels, more information. So make sure to do that because without it, you won't support us, and we need that support for sure.
We
Yes,
love all
click
the
those
support.
follows.
Yeah,
Catch up with past episodes.
So
that's right. Past
Yeah.
episode, we've had a bunch of past
Uh-huh.
episodes, and so that definitely thank you for that for sure. Um, Another one of those events, so one of those the news that we wanted to touch on was you kind of touched it on with me earlier in the week, Stephen, was the hemp and the ban in Florida with the hemp and THCA.
yes, yes, yes.
Did you get any more info on that?
I would love. I know very surface level
Yeah.
because it's out of state. You know you're only going to see so much in the quote unquote news. But there's a big battle between I like to call it the gray area, which is like the THCA. Which, for clarification, any THC in a plant will always be THCA. So that's like a funny thing right there. But it's battle between THCA entrepreneurs and multi-state operators or just legal Florida cannabis operators. And so they pretty much, what's the point of having a cannabis dispensary where you're selling THC due to regulations when you can sell THCA online or in a smoke shop or anything right there? So you have one industry that is over-regulated, overtaxed, and looked at like a microscope, and then you have the other side where they're just doing whatever they want. So I could see both sides, but
Yeah.
um,
For me personally, I've always thought it was, I've, al- I thought it was kind of confusing for me personally, like coming into it, like, because I didn't know the difference,
Mhm.
right? Like, what is the difference? Why is there so much difference? Seemingly, like from the outside looking in, for a letter, essentially, right? Like, or a number, right? Like the Delta
A
8,
percentage.
Yeah.
Delta 9, THC versus THCA. And so from the outside looking in, it can seem very confusing as to like what the biggest differences are.
People are trying to separate the plant, and at the end of the day, it's all one plant, and it's beneficial for everyone. But it comes down to lack of education for policymakers and policymakers who shouldn't be making policy for cannabis businesses. If you don't know anything about cannabis, yet alone don't know anything about business, the last thing you should be doing is creating policy for this infant industry. And what they're doing is they're just strangling this industry to where it's going to be. There's only four major players in almost every industry. It's what's going to happen. So, but Florida is an interesting thing. I've never experienced Florida, meaning the business side. So I'd love to see if you have any information on that, Jasmine.
You know, like Danny, I think that it gets confusing as far as like what makes it THCA or hemp derived or cannabis derived, and it is policy. What in our federal regulations tells us is hemp or hemp derived is anything below 0.03% THC. Anything above that is considered a cannabis product and should be in a marijuana facility and regulated through that market. However, I don't see anyone producing 1% THC cannabis
Nope.
in the industry. Why would we do that? I think when you talk about commercialization at a national level, of course you want to take down your competitors. As the MSOs doing this work, I'm gonna play devil's
What does MSO stand for?
multi-state operators. So because there's federal prohibition, companies that want to operate in multiple states have to have their operations at a state level. And now if you want to be in multiple states, that means that you have a license in each state that you operate. And that makes it very difficult because essentially you can't be a hub producer and then export that product into other states.
Why can't you export to other states?
Because of federal prohibition. So that's just what the model is. It's not a great model, but that's what we have. And coming from California and looking at these multi-state operators who are probably, I don't know, in Michigan or somewhere in like the Midwest is where I imagine they all live. I'm glad they're fighting that battle because I don't have to.
Yeah.
I don't have the resources. I don't have the time. I have to worry about what's happening here locally at a policy level. I can't be worrying about this federal stuff. So yes, go fight those battles. I don't, as far as the consumer side, because I do consume, we consume, I'm going to smoke some Cali weed. I'm not going to go and try to like hemp. Okay, that's cool. That's you. You do you.
Yeah.
Like, don't come tell me what I should be smoking or not smoking. And that's just my view as a consumer. I have access to amazing product in California, and I'm going to stick to that. And if I were in Florida, I'd probably be mad that I can't get Cali weed. And, you know, Florida weed might not be the best. So THCA is my second option. I might do that too.
I could only imagine that, like, anywhere outside of the West Coast, most products is going to be indoor products, right? Like, because of the weather?
Because of climate.
Like, just thinking, deductive reasoning for me is like the New York market that's opening up. I can only assume that most is going to be indoor cultivating products.
Yeah. Even if you do your greenhouse, you're probably dealing with 4 to 4 months of good weather in those areas. And it just doesn't make business sense to only be able to cultivate your product 4 months out of the year. And then you are subject to the weather. Are you getting enough resources from sun, airflow and water?
Yeah. I mean, I could just, like, East Coast is like that nasty humidity.
I mean,
and so it's
Florida humidity.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I used to live in Florida. I have family in Florida.
Weed's probably musty.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, and it's across the whole East Coast border, right? Like, New York is like that too. Like, it's all.
I screamed this to the rooftop. Every other state besides California is gonna want California weed. Not just states, but I mean around the world, everyone is gonna want California weed.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna touch on this a little. We both have footprints in Colorado, and I've shopped at Colorado dispensaries, and I will only buy concentrate in Colorado when I go, because when you buy product, it's so dry, you can crush it up, and it's just gonna
it's dust.
It's dust.
And the reason why that happens, the flower in Colorado is grown indoor, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful flower, great genetics. The terp profiles in these genetics are amazing. However, you're growing and cultivating and packaging in a controlled environment. Once your product is packaged, it has to be transported and moved to a dispensary. It sits in a shelf where it's not in a controlled environment anymore. And then the consumer picks it up from the dispensary, takes it home, and now it's had weeks of regular Denver or Colorado weather, and Colorado's desert mountain is very dry. So when you get your product out of this packaging, it turns into dust, and you can't have this quality control outside of your growing facilities. So that's just how it is. I think that if you were to take California weed into these other markets, once federal legalization opens up, we'll still have a more sustainable shelf life than all these other.
I was just gonna ask that, like, what? Yeah, I was gonna ask that, like, how much more different would that be if we take it out of our controlled environment of California into these other states?
I think it sustains its quality a lot better than all the other states outside of California.
I don't encourage anyone to travel with cannabis, but I only travel with my own cannabis, especially if I'm going home to Colorado. I like I said, I don't buy flower. I'll bring my flower, and it's a night and day experience. So and I just wanted to touch those operators in Colorado. Once it leaves their facility, they have zero control, zero say of how the retail actually presents it or how they store it. And we touched on it last episode, light degradation, all these other things that can affect it. It's just a formula for a dusty situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. All right. Well, thank you guys for that. We're gonna move on to the market report.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. market report.
We've been getting good
guys.
feedback on the market
Yeah,
report.
we definitely have. There's been a lot of shops that's been reaching out to us, a lot of distributors that have been reaching out to us to want to highlight their pricing and to really look at that. And so shout out to everyone that's been reaching out. Um, one of the shops that did reach out to me was Butter,
Mhm.
and so Butter,
Shout out Scooby.
they're Scooby. They're right here in the city of North Hollywood, and we actually got some of their products here, and they have daily deals constantly going on. You'll find products there from like $5 to $10 out the door. This pre roll in particular was $5 out the door with taxes and all. So they're definitely looking to cater to get the daily bang for your buck.
Yeah. And I appreciate stores that throw the OTD price, the out the door price, because that's what cannabis consumers and shoppers are used to. Like before, essentially, like I'd say before like 2018, everything was out the door. Like, oh, it's gonna be $20, it's gonna be $25, and then you don't get surprised with tax. Like I'll walk into a store, sticker price says $16, I end up paying $22,
Yeah.
and I just feel like this store is lying to me and cheating me out of my
Yeah.
eye.
And this is a gram,
That's
right?
1.3 actually.
1.3
Oh, wow.
grams, so like
1.3
5 on it.
grams. Yep.
This is a good pre-roll for $5.
It is. It is. And with them, they're a small family operator, so they manufactured the product themselves, and now they're retailing it themselves. And so that's one of the unique positions that they're in as well within this industry, where you're not only supporting small business, but also family business as well,
And a minority.
and a minority, social equity as well. They're social equity shops, so they click every dot on the spectrum there for
Go spend your money at Butter.
go to Butter, go see Scooby, go check out Johnny and the team over there as well. But with today's market report, what I wanted to touch on was price points and profit margins with products and production. And so here, as you see, we got 3 different pre-rolls, and every pre-roll is the same. They're all the same. It's all flour that you'll find, and
Is it what type of flour?
it's all mixed light flour that you see here. And so if you're just looking at the pre-roll itself, you'll see that they're all pretty similar, right? And the differences is going to be packaging. And so for me personally, I was telling Steven this when I was trying to explain to him. When I look at packaging, for me in my operating brain, I always look at how many touch points was on this particular product, just because I've been doing it for so long. Like I look at it, I'm like, dang, this like this one in particular, it's a glass jar. There's one label, there's 2 labels here, there's a 3rd security label. So there was 4 touch points just to make this product. 1 to put the product in, 2 to slap the label, 3 to slap the 3rd, 4 to slap the label there,
Why is that important
And
to know?
closing it.
and then
It's
closing
5.
it. So
True.
5. So that's 5 different touch points there. And if you're getting this white labeled outside of
What does white labeled mean?
white labeled is having that product or process done for you from a larger facility, right? They're gonna charge you on every touch point, whether it's 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents, and those things add up when you're making pre rolls. And you're not only gonna make 100 pre rolls, you're gonna make maybe 1,000, a couple more, right? And for larger brands, you're in the tens of thousands, 20,000s, and so those 15 cents add up, right?
Mhm.
And so you're looking at these things, and as a new brand owner, these are some of the things you need to pay attention to. This one in particular was glass. When I went to the shop retailed this particular item at $6. This was the most expensive pre-roll that we have here. The butter one, you got the touch point that goes in, right? You got to close it. That's 2. Now you got to put it in the bag. That's 3. You got to seal it. That's 4. Label. That's 5 touch points as well. This one here was $5 out the door. So the difference here, although same amount of touch points, is the packaging, right? This is glass. This is plastic in a Mylar bag. And now this one here, which is a plastic container, you have 2 touch points. Well, 3 touch points, 4 touch points, right? The 1 close, one label, and then they got the heat seal, the wrap. That's 4 touch points. This one in particular was $250 out the door, or $350 out the door.
Can you use any type of packaging for your cannabis products, or are there certain requirements that a brand has to make?
There's definitely certain requirements, right? There's compliance. There needs to be a child safety, opening on there. There needs to have specific labeling on there, and we'll definitely touch on those as we move on, or as every show we'll bring up certain topics of that nature that needs to be on there, because I've seen there's been situations where from compliance we maybe missed a number or missed a letter, and that also cost us money because now we have to reprint everything. Now we have to go back and retouch everything. And so that's something that also you, as a new brand owner, entrepreneur in the space, you need to be paying attention to, because like I said, everything costs money.
Yeah. Every single mistake, and things take longer than what you think they are, and they are going to cost a lot more than what you think they are.
Yeah, and even just piggybacking off of the last episode with Angie and Encore and testing, we also got to wait for testing results. And so going back to having that right partnership with your labs and all of that, like Jasmine just mentioned, time is important. And if you want to be able to push these products out, time, you're against time. In every way, shape, or form, right? Not just in making the product, but also, we touched on shelf life. That shelf life is so important.
Yes.
And so balancing that, there's that balancing act of how much production should you be making that you're going to sell through, and that the consumers are also going to ultimately pull from the shelves to keep that cycle going. And it's a constant balancing act as a brand owner or an entrepreneur in the space that people may not know. They come into the space excited, I'm gonna make a brand, and then real quickly, how many times have we seen at Hall of Flowers these brands and pop-ups that they have their booth and they're no longer around anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, so many.
We have a quick turnaround in the industry, but that's not to discourage you to come in and be a part of it. I think that the message here is to do your due diligence, understand who are your right partners, and vet people. I think that's so important.
That's very big, yeah.
It's so important. One of the things, I just had this conversation with a colleague of mine about credit checks in the industry. And unfortunately, we can't work with credit bureaus, right, to do a credit check on a business. However, we can do a credit check within the industry. Let me call my contacts. We know each other. I think the industry is small enough still where we know each other.
Right.
I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call Danny and I'm going to say, hey, Danny, I have this person in front of me. How have you worked with this person? How long have you known them for? What have you heard? Good, bad? Tell me how it is. And I think that our relationships have become so transparent and nurturing to each other. We want to see each other grow, where we're going to keep it real and we're going to let you know, hey, this person does X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
This is what I suggest you should do. Or, if it is a positive, then shine that person through and say, hey, they pay their bills on time. Do business with them.
And that's a great point to go backwards to our first episode where we were talking about off the charts and dispensaries not paying their vendors. That by reaching out to other people and just asking, hey, I have someone who wants to take in said amount of orders. Are they paying you? Are they going to pay me when the term ends? Are they going to pay me before? Yeah. What should that approach be? Because you got to rely on your network to make it to the next day.
That's true.
But
That's true.
For the market report, I do have. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
The only thing I have is I'm coming with clone prices. Shout out to Culture Cuts.
Cuts.
So everyone needs. If you're a cultivator, everyone needs clones, and clones are a tricky plant, a tricky baby to understand.
What are clones?
Clones are a cut from a mother plant. So you have a male version and a female version, and so you have all the moms, and you'll cut leaves, and then you'll plant those, and then those can turn into budding cannabis
So
plants.
you're telling me that it's the female plants that make the world go round?
Of course.
Of course. The plant is female. Male plants are hemp, or that typically.
Okay.
We should start saying that the difference between cannabis and hemp is that hemp is male.
Yeah, that's
Instead
an
of its
easy.
0.03%.
It's a very easy way to put it. So, quick. So, Culture Cuts, they got some. I don't want to say generic. They have staple strains available, SFOG stuff like that. Those clones are typically going for about $7 a pop. And then if you want the exotics or the candies, those are going to be about $9. But Natasha with Culture Cuts and the whole team, boom.
We love Natasha. She's awesome.
So they work with their customers and they create a great schedule. But back to like with a lab, you want to create a great relationship. If you have a great relationship with your nursery, they can be on schedule with your cultivation plan, so you don't miss a date, so you can keep going with your business. So $7.
I wanted
$9. Go ahead.
I wanted to add something to that because you're touching on B2B, business to business. So a licensed facility can go and purchase these clones from Natasha at Culture Cuts. However, as a consumer, you're allowed to have 12 plants in your home, 6 of which could be matured plants. And this is a great way to start your home grow, is through Culture Cut type of clones to do something at a smaller scale.
That's a great question. Now that as you mention it, can a consumer purchase cuts from a licensed facility?
Licensed retailers. So you still have to go into a dispensary to purchase these clones, but yes, you can purchase clones, you can purchase seeds, or you can purchase your finished product.
So a company like Culture Cuts could essentially sell some of their clones to a retail?
To a retail,
yeah.
And then from the retail, have them directly to the consumer. Absolutely.
On that note, if you're in Long Beach, Chronic Long Beach and Flight on Cherry, I was just at both of those dispensaries this week. They have clones available from Clone Guys.
Oh, nice.
So you could go and purchase it there, and that's going to be the legal way.
Yeah. I don't know if Culture Cuts is at any dispensaries. I think we'd have to confirm with them, but she could absolutely work that business model. Yep.
Nice. Well, shout out to you, Natasha. Thank you for providing us with your clone list. And as we were talking relationship building and industry and being very small, I mean that's a great segue to you, Jasmine, and with all the work that you've done. You're the president of the working group. You're the CEO of Creatrix Group as well. You're the co-founder of Cannabis Salud.
Yes.
And
then some.
and yeah, you're the partner manager for Mala Munoz and the Locutora Radio.
Yes, I'm their cannabis manager at Locutora Radio in the launch of their first in-house podcast, which is Marihuanera, a podcast for potheads.
That was a great series.
Season 3, wrapping up season 3.
Yeah. I remember going to the listening party a few years ago at Locals Only.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time.
It's a cool little venue.
Yeah. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to that team,
Mala.
Mala for making that happen. It was a cool little event to see, like how she came in the little lowrider.
Yes. Shout out to Trophy for that lowrider. We appreciate it.
Nice. Yeah. So it was a good time. It was eye opening for myself, and that's actually where we met too as well, right? Like formally met, and afterwards I was like, my connects from before, Hamidi and Andrea, they were like, you don't know Jasmine?
Yeah.
And I was like,
because I know CED Connects from like 2015, 2016, when Andrea and Hamidi, who are the founders of
CED,
they would host informational workshops across LA, and I got a chance to be part of some of those workshops before legalization, when Prop 64 was an idea, a thought.
Yeah, and that's what kicked off CED, right? Was that idea of education now needs to happen. It needs to happen within people of color, and that was Andrea and Hamidi's vision, was how can we make this, how can we normalize this, and how can we make this to where the masses can come? And it was like the TED Talk of cannabis.
Yeah,
really, that was the vision. The TED Talk of cannabis.
TED Talk has a lot of history behind it.
And so I'm just finding out that that you were a part of the whole thing right now. So that's great to hear that you've been a part of this journey in some way, shape, or form,
and staying engaged.
And staying engaged.
100%. Don't give up. Keep going. It gets tough, and you hear a lot of stories within the industry of failures, and it's okay. I think that we need to give space to acknowledging that the industry is broken and we're going to have a lot of falling pieces. However, we need to pick those pieces up and keep pushing.
Yeah. So talk to us about how'd you get started with the space, and how did that journey start for you?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry since 2012. It started because I was born and raised in LA. My parents decided to move to Denver, Colorado. When I was in my 20s, early 20s, I decided to stay here. I said I don't really want to go to Denver yet. I finally decided to move to Denver with them. I miss my family a lot. And when I moved to Denver, I begin to ask about cannabis. Like I've been consuming since I was about 19 years old, and it wasn't readily available to me in Colorado because I didn't have the same neighborhood, the same connects, the same friends that I did back home in LA. So at that time I would definitely bring my own cannabis with me. But I needed friends. I'm like, where are all the potheads? And my friends from Denver, they love to drink. They don't really do cannabis at all. And at that time, and not that it's not the case for other people, but for myself, at that time, marijuana was like the devil for my community, my family, the people I grew up with. It was just like, you're a drug addict. You're just on the wrong path if you smoke cannabis. So I had to very, very discreetly try to like find connections and find that tribe. So I met a friend, her name is Cynthia, through my sister at the time, or I mean,
she ain't my sister when I'm mad at her.
Family.
No. I love my sister. I love my sister. I'm just saying at the time, she was still in high school. So at that time, my sister was my plug.
Hey.
And so Cynthia tells me about the medical market, and I didn't know that California had a medical market. This was in 2009 to 2010. I was probably 25, and I did not know California had a medical market because I grew up in the hood. That type of information was not available to me. If I wanted weed, I knew where to go get it.
Yeah.
So I moved to Colorado, and at the time I was working in the banking industry. So of course I got drug tested. Of course, like I was at executive level in the banking industry, so like a lot of eyes on me, and I have to act right and be professional at all times. However, in my journey to try to understand what a medical market was, I immersed myself because one, I consume, and two, I know business. And if this is going to go legal, like how do I participate and how do I make money from this? So
that was just like a natural thought for you?
Yeah, because I mean, not that I ever wanted to be trapping or flipping weed from the hood. That wasn't my line of business. But I found ways to not pay for my weed by sharing bargaining, of course. So I of course, everyone that I got it from was in that scene. And growing up, I had the opportunity, unfortunately, to see a lot of friends go to jail. A lot of people die because of police violence, gang violence, and all these gang-related issues go back to dealing weed, right? So I grew up in that environment. Going to Colorado, it was a shift change for me, and I was able to understand how Colorado was able to change the stigma and now commercialize cannabis. And given my background in the finance, banking, real estate industry, I understand business and immediately saw the opportunities to do it. However, it was very white. I was the only Latina in the space at that time. Mind you, I'm a light-skinned Latina, so people automatically assume I'm white.
Yeah.
Right? Like the first impression, especially if I'm in a white room, I can blend in. And I was being at that time in 2012, I was working full time. I was going to culinary school, and my side hustle was cannabis volunteer and cannabis consulting. And I saw the opportunity to be able to educate my community on the Amendment 64. Amendment 64 is what legalized cannabis in Colorado at the state level. And with that came the opportunity to do public awareness campaigns, community organizing, community education, and all these nonprofits that I did volunteer for, they were focused on creating English content and really not focusing on the Latino community. So I saw that.
Is there a large Latino community in Colorado or in Denver?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know the percentages, but
Sure.
it's
I never been, but
in 2012, I was a freshman at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and I was part of the 2% minority, not 2% Latino, 2% minority.
Okay.
So in university or in education institutes, theirs is very white.
that's your story across your
All my education.
your educational career, right? Like
All my
your
education.
educational career has always been the minority.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
you got to hook up a little
Gotta
kid from
do
the
it.
ghetto, scholarship baby. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
That's right.
Get
I
it.
got to pay for my education. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But Denver, you would say is Latino. It's
so
heavy Latino.
Yeah, Denver, like the heart of Denver, even like south a little bit of Denver, like I don't want to say on Colfax, but like around that area, very Latino. I'd say in Aurora and like the suburbs, it's also like sprinkled around, but compared to LA where it's 99%
Latino.
Latinos,
Yeah.
it's a complete night and day. Like
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's heavy. It has a presence, and I saw that as my opportunity to seize a moment. I was educated, I understood business very well, and I wanted to be able to educate my community on how this could have a positive
Impact.
have a positive impact on our
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So through these nonprofits, I was able to do a 12 episode series on the legalization efforts in Colorado, all in Spanish. We talked about the medicinal effects, about how to become a patient, how to become a parent, or how to handle as a parent of a patient, what were the business opportunities. And these things were all syndicated at a national level because they gained so much traction in the subject. The subject was just very interesting, and out of Colorado, now we're being nationally syndicated through Telemundo and Univision. This work now made its way to Mexico, which is where Mexico entered the picture for me. It's at that time, Raul Elizalde, who is the parent of an epileptic child, was suing the Mexican government to be able to import full spectrum hemp-derived tincture for his daughter to help her with her epileptic seizures. So given my opportunity or my experience with application processing at a local and state level, I joined a consulting team in this process, and I was able to help put together the first application for export from Colorado into Mexico. And this was in 2014.
That's wild.
Yeah, that was a lot of work. It was very interesting, and I mean, it just opened so many doors for me. At that time, I was also the national chapter director for Women Grow. Women Grow was founded 10 years ago.
it's still going on. It's still
Yeah,
going around.
it's
Yeah.
still out.
Yeah.
So Women Grow began in Denver, Colorado as one chapter, and we would host monthly networking events for women in the industry. Come learn, come connect, come understand the industry. From that, interest grew at a national level. So my job at Women Grow was to take that company from one chapter in Denver, Colorado, and I expanded it to 42 chapters across the United States. And these 42 chapters would host a monthly meetup, first Thursday of every month. And that was such an incredible experience because I was able to, one, build my resume. I was managing 42 events in one day.
Jeez.
I was also
That's insane. Just event planning for one is crazy. To do
42.
42 in a day.
And our biggest markets were LA. LA would see anywhere from 750 people to 1,000 people. Seattle, Portland, and Arizona were our biggest markets at the time. And then New York came on board. New York was a little tricky because it was still under prohibition, like heavy prohibition at the time. Ohio was very difficult. Like I had a situation in Ohio one time where the opposing team that wanted to shut down cannabis legislation showed up to the networking event. And I'm doing all this remotely from Denver, and my chapter chairs are the ones on the ground taking care of this. And we're learning as we go. I've never had to deal with an opposing anti-cannabis group showing up to an event and try to shut me down.
What was that like? What was their presence like?
It was very aggressive. I think that being able to Women Grow had such, or it still does have such a mild and inviting corporate image that I think it was a good introduction to these anti-cannabis groups where, listen, we're not here consuming because nobody in Ohio was consuming. In markets that were legal, consumption is allowed. Do as you need to. But in Ohio, this wasn't happening. But it was an aggressive conversation, and now Ohio has legislation. And I think Women Grow had a lot to do with all these cities and all these states opening up for legalization.
Nice. That's some crazy story and some crazy work that's been done.
Yeah.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
For reals.
And Women Grow now, it's still around. Post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, Women Grow would host these monthly networking events, and then it would host a yearly summit for women.
Yeah.
And that's where my big summit experience and production comes from Women Grow. So we would host, I think we hosted about 4 or 5 events at a national level and had like 300 to 400 capacity and would sell out in days.
Conference is big money too.
Yeah,
like I've mentioned this in the past. I worked in early education, and there's a lot of conferences that happen in damn near every industry, right? But I personally been a part of like going to early education conferences, and they charge a lot of money to attend. There's a lot of like, I would just do the math in my head as I'm sitting at like the big keynote room with the keynote speaker. And,
it's a lot of expenses too.
And all that. So I'm like, dude, this is crazy. But yeah, you're right, because I'm sure the hotel stay and having to pay for the
production,
and everything. There's a lot of money.
It is, and it's a lot of stress.
I could only imagine.
Yeah. That. So Women Grow, it's still around. I love it. Please follow Women Grow. It's still a great resource. It's post-pandemic shifted to a more online presence. So it does a lot of workshops or via Zoom. It'll have C-suite series where Gia, who was the president at the time, she was hosting this C-suite series, interviewing different women in C-suite cannabis companies. That series is still up, and it's amazing.
Nice.
It's a great resource.
Nice. So from all that work, how'd you come back to California and after Colorado and the work that was being done in Mexico?
Yeah. When I went to Mexico, I went with Emmanuel Bernal, who is founder and CEO of a vertically integrated company in Colorado. And he wanted to expand into Mexico and into Colombia at the time. So I said yes to moving and shaking in Mexico. I didn't want to go into Colombia. I just felt like it wasn't the place for me. And while I'm trying to figure out, do I move to Mexico? Do I stay in Denver? I know Cali might come up. I get a call and an invitation to join a Latino focus group to write Prop 64. And that's when I turned down the job offer to go to Colombia. I said, you know what? Best of luck. I know it's going to go great, but I need to go back home. I need to be there. And I just internally thought, why would I go to another country, to another market, when I'm from the largest market that will host cannabis in the world? And we have amazing quality. I don't need to go anywhere else. I need to go home. So I moved back home. And into 2015, I'm really living out of 2 suitcases because I have clients in Colorado, I have clients in Mexico, and I'm getting my clients going in California. And it was just like 2 weeks here, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks here, and then kept going. I did that for like a year and a half, maybe 2.
That sounds draining.
It was fun. I think that it's fun. It is draining. You have to. It was a learning experience for me because you learn how to travel light,
right?
What's really important, how to keep it simple, and you really learn about yourself. I had a lot of time to spend by myself, and I enjoyed that time, got comfortable with having dinner by myself mostly every day because I was
somewhere new.
Somewhere new. I got comfortable with getting out and knowing cities that I was in because I was by myself. And
it's an adventure.
It was an adventure, and I saw it as that. And I think that it helped me really come out of my shelf and understand that no matter where I'm at, I'm gonna make moves.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify something. You mentioned in Colorado there was Amendment 64, and then in California there's Prop 64.
Yes.
So are they the same thing? Or are they different? Can we touch on that real quick, just for the people who don't have any backstory or education?
Amendment 64, I would say, is the template that wrote Prop 64.
It's a great way to put it.
Amendment 64 was a pilot program that a lot of the nonprofit organizations that I was volunteering at have a national presence in drug policy, in drug awareness, addiction, medical, name it, they were there. So this was a collective effort to try to legalize Colorado, and the way it happened was through a presidential election. Okay. So it got the national attention that it needed on a media level to be able to convince the Colorado market that you needed to vote. And also it was a perfect test market because the population of Colorado and what commercialization of cannabis would be in Colorado, you can copy and paste that and it would fit in LA County as far as population.
We're talking about for the whole state.
Yeah.
With LA County.
That's
how big we are and how small some other places are.
Yeah, in population. And so when Prop 64 was at the table, it was the same organizations that were part of Amendment 64 were drafting. So it was a great experience to be able to now take my learnings from Denver or from Colorado and bring them to the table in California. And the unique thing here was that I'm LA born and raised. So I'm not coming to this table as an outsider. Yeah. I'm coming in as a constituent, as a stakeholder, as a resident, as a person who understands the culture in the industry, and very empowered. I mean, I think that people who do know me know that I'm going to speak my mind regardless of who's in the room and regardless of who's going to make uncomfortable. And I had to remind myself of that as I'm sitting in the room with these big MSOs, these big technology companies, and these big nonprofit organizations. And I think that we've talked about this in the past. It's like, how do we manage these difficult conversations in hostile environments where you might be the little guy or the little girl?
On that note, who was in those meetings that might surprise you that was like a big player, and you were like, oh shit.
I'm not surprised. I mean,
Okay,
this
cool.
is public information. It's out there. Weed Maps was there. So was Drug Policy Alliance. So was Harborside.
Was that State House?
Harborside is
Francisco.
D'Angelo.
Yeah.
Oh,
D'Angelo.
Oh, gotcha.
And then Normal was there. Americans for Safe Access. Who else?
So a lot of people who have been pioneers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a lot of heated discussions and a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of difference of opinions as we're drafting this. And now,
and is that because California is so big, and you're talking about like those organizations or those folks, like what was that first one you just said with D'Angelo? Harborside. They're more of a NorCal based, and then you're SoCal, and people outside of California don't understand that those are like two different states, essentially, like two different markets, two different of everything. Did that play a role in it?
I think that people at the table had an idea of what the industry would look like and thought they knew better. And they did have the money, and the resources. So what they said was what happened. I had a heated conversation in one of these working groups where we knew the status and the statistics and data around the Latino vote. And given the fact that there's little to no Latinos in this industry, I made it
not that little to no Latinos in the industry that want to voice that they're in the industry.
Right? In 2015.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It was
there was
different. It was
different
market. Different market.
Different times.
I felt that the Latinos that were in the room needed to speak up.
Right.
And voice our opinion on what could work in legalization and what was going to hurt us. Given our background or my background and work in Colorado, it's like having deja vu. You already know what's going to happen because you already lived it. I already know how to get from no application to a city application through a state application and have a 5-year business running. So I come in with this knowledge and opinions of how the proposition should be open. And I'm told and put in my place that you're here to contribute on certain things, but we don't need you to contribute on this.
Wow.
Right? And I spend my time, energy, and resources to be here, and I do the work because I actually sit there and I analyze things and I draft policy recommendations. So we worked on a policy recommendation probably for 6 months. And through this time, I'm traveling between Colorado, Mexico, and LA. And as I'm in LA, I'm dedicating time to this. This proposal gets left out of Prop 64. And I was livid. I was so upset that, one, how dare you waste my time and have me sit here and show up to do this work and then tell me it couldn't make it to the table. Like, I am not the one. So I walked out of that room. I stopped my support. I voted no on Prop 64, and I've publicly said that because I knew exactly what these big companies were doing to hinder our industry. And here we are, years later. What's good?
And people saw that. People saw that back then, that this was so set up for failure. But there were so many people who didn't care because they just wanted something now. Like, we just need it, and then we'll figure it out. And that's the worst way to go about policy.
Absolutely.
Because it's a lot harder to change policy than implement policy.
Here we are. Mm-hmm. Here we are with a bleeding industry, overtaxed, overregulated, and these people that were at this table, because it was actors in the industry that were at this table. I look at them now, and we cross paths at these conferences and we cross paths at different events, and I I'm glad I can walk with my head held up high because I stood my ground.
Mm-hmm.
I don't let people push me around. If something doesn't sit well with me, I don't need to be in that room. I understand that when I'm in a room, I'm legitimizing the people around there. So I choose to remove myself from these rooms because I hold my power of when I choose to be supportive, if it aligns with my ethics, if it aligns with my vision of work, and if it doesn't, then peace out.
Yeah. I mean, well, with that being said, I mean, one, I appreciate you for even just coming onto our space and gracing us with it, because, you know, we recognize that your time is valuable, and everything that you've brought to this industry is important, and we need to share that. And so, one, thank you again. But how, we've kind of touched on this a bit, being in these rooms and being in these spaces as a Latina, as a woman in the space, like, what advice would you give to other women that want to step in to handle or navigate conversations with other men in the space?
Uncomfortable situations in general with men in the space.
Yeah, I think that as women,